Democrats continue to argue voter ID laws suppress the vote of minorities, but a recent Census Bureau report proves otherwise. Turns out, for the first time ever, black voters surpassed white voters in the 2012 presidential election, even in some states with voter ID laws. With us now, Fox News contributor and radio talk show host, Mr. David Webb. David, tell us the current state of voter ID laws in America and tell us what's really going on.
What's really going on here is the lie has been that voter ID suppresses votes, and now we have a 2012 report by the Census Bureau coming out of the 2012.
Suppresses minority votes.
Suppresses minority votes, right. Which that's the narrative. The narrative is that minorities are disenfranchised, and they use all the old poll tax verbiage when it comes to it. Here's the reality, and this comes from the Census Bureau report as well as backed up by the National Conference of State Legislatures on states that have strict voter ID, which is state-issued photo ID, and others that have other forms of ID. Mm-hmm. In fact, voter turnout in the 2011 election, Eric, higher for blacks than it was for whites. Now, we have to be realistic. Blacks vote historically Democrat, and so do many Hispanics. That's a split in that community. But when you look at the black community, if there's suppression of the votes, why is there such a higher turnout rate? And when you look at the states that they attack, Florida, Georgia, or they considered in this report, Florida, Georgia, Indiana, Michigan, and Tennessee, the turnout was significantly better for blacks. In Kansas, Louisiana, New Hampshire, and South Dakota, there was no statistical difference between blacks and whites. What it shows is that Americans will go out and vote if they have the desire to vote. And frankly, how often do we vote? Do we vote every day, every month? No. We vote once a year in local elections, Congress 2 years, 4 years, etc. 6 for Senate. There's plenty of time for Americans to go out and get a vote ID. And I want to say something to the American people. It's voter verification. Your vote should be counted accurately. And on top of that, you get provisional ballots. There's always a backup method.
Absolutely. David, we only have about a minute or so. I want you to weigh in on President Clinton yesterday at the MLK speeches addressed this issue. He says it's easier to buy an assault rifle than to vote in America. Your thoughts?
It's just a flat-out lie. Let's call it what it is. First of all, there are many processes in place at the state and federal level to make sure there are checks and balances, there's background checks, etc. Here's what they're doing. They don't want any community that they need in a box. And by the way, when you put blacks in a box, you put whites in a box. You're this, you're that, Hispanics, etc. They don't want you to realize that you have a choice. And my admonition to any group, Eric, is that if you have no political power, if you have no choice in your vote and you have no preference, or you don't show that you have, that they should earn your vote.
We're going to leave it there. David Webb, thanks so much for joining us this morning.